morning, everyone. Welcome to yet another episode of Health Discourse with Sakshi and Sushant. So, hi, Sushant. Good morning.
Good morning.
So, folks, today our discussion is going to be continued with the cancer series, and this time we will be discussing a few things about how mitochondria and mitochondrial health is. If anything goes wrong with the mitochondrial health, it could actually lead to cancer, right? So since we know that there are a lot of packaged foods coming up in the market, which disrupts the flow of oxygen in our body, we have already discussed these things in the nitric oxide video, and today we are going to be discussing how these things impact the mitochondrial function. And so, Shad, now over to you. Let us begin this discussion.
Okay, so before that, let us, for everyone, it's to basically understand in layman's language, right? Few terms I wanted to first explain before we deep dive into this. One is we all know human cells, everyone knows, right? So human cells are attached to certain enzymes, right? Enzyme consist of various proteins which perform various biochemical functions. Now, proteins is an outcome of expression of protein. Coding of protein is an outcome of expression of certain genes, right? Again, it is an outcome of what you eat, right? So again, mitochondria we know is an energy powerhouse. It's a part of our cells. It has its own DNA. It controls your cellular metabolism. It controls your cell growth. It controls your cell death. What is we call it apoptosis, right? So essentially, it is a mainstay of keeping your cell growth under check, right? And again, this abnormal cell growth is what converts a normal cells into a cancerous cells, right? Again, mitochondrial dysfunction is one of the major reasons for cancer, including the oral cancer, which we are launching next month, right? But uh, let us understand first about these packaged foods and the so-called propagation of healthy these foods being called as healthy, right? And again, I'm going to talk about a bit about the oils. Uh, Vegetables or seed oils, which we discussed earlier also, but we'll touch a nutshell how they impact the cancerous situations, right? So essentially, all the vegetables oils, whether it is soy oil, soybean oil, palm oil, right, whatever grapeseed oil and whatever seed oils are there. First of all, these are really really overheated, right, and these have a lot of polyunsaturated fats, right, which are double bond, and again they react with oxygen to cause oxidative stress. Now the thing is, understand that every cell has a cell membrane, right? So mitochondrial cell membrane, they need fats, healthy fats such as monounsaturated fat, saturated fat, right? Ghee, butter, right? Uh, uh, Coconut oil, all these are saturated fats. And unlike people or, a lot of these regulatory agencies also telling, limit the consumption of saturated fat, it's all bullshit. Right? So essentially these are healthy fats which maintain your cell structure and fluidity, right? So what I mean by cell structure is that helps the intracellular signaling. It helps cell sense what is outside of cells, right? React to the enzymatic activities and maybe whatever they do, whether it is expressing GLUT4, which we know is required for glucose uptake and insulin regulation, or nitric oxide, which we know is regulated for GLUT4, or mitochondrial biogenesis again, you know. So again, cell does this act, and for these act, there has to be a signaling cascade active, and for that you need to have a right structure and fluidity of cells, right, which again is determined by the kind of fats you consume. If you're consuming a lot of seed oils and vegetables and a lot of these things, it changes the cell structure and fluidity, so cell cannot sense what is happening, right? There is an impact on intracellular signaling. There is no mitochondrial biogenesis. It leads to mitochondrial dysfunction, and which is root cause of various diseases. Similarly, when you when there's an oxidative stress, it oxidizes a lot of these proteins which I mentioned, right? On which enzymes which have a lot of proteins, also the metals on the proteins, right? And again, it renders cell dysfunction, and that again leads to the mitochondrial health issues, mitochondrial dysfunction, right? So a lot of us who are consuming these snacks, right, or these things which are being, you know, propagated as healthy, whether these are protein bars or whether these are, so-called snack chips and crackers and biscuits and all these things, right, which actually are have laden with a lot of these seed oils, right? Or you're eating the hard, you know, ultra processed food such as burgers and pizzas outside, right? Which again,
Hydrogenated oils. They are made in
yeah. So
hydrogenated
again,
oils.
even the oils which you are consuming, seed oils or vegetable oils which you are buying from outside, which are such as canola oil, right? If you're buying from outside, which is very high in polyunsaturated fat, which is again poly means more than one, right? And again, it has more than one chemical bond which reacts with oxygen. So it's already overheated, right? It's most of them are not cold pressed because again, and again, if I tell in get into detail what things are being put to make it in a form of oil, you will even you know spit it, right? So essentially, there's a lot of detergents being added and to for a better aromatic things and even a lot of other chemicals which make it in an oil form, right? So again, another thing is these oils, even if you're consuming today, or maybe you think, okay, एक बार खा लो कुछ नहीं होता. Uh, that's a lot of people think, oh, these cheat meal hai, let's go and eat and out and something. These oils stays in your membrane for 680 days. More than 2 years, they're going to do inflammation, right? And this inflammation is going to cause oxidative cells, going to cause mitochondrial dysfunction, right? So, so the thing is, these things which you think is easy because you are seeing that it has artificial sweetener, it has low sugar, or probably it has cereal vegetables, or you think these have fiber. They promote, okay, these biscuits and cookies have fiber, but it also have palm oils and rapeseed oils and canola and a lot of these vegetables oil, which are already made with you know, these things. So essentially, these directly impact your mitochondrial health, right? Uh, so again, coming on to my now, this is basics of understanding of mitochondrial dysfunction, right? And again, let us get back into the role of mitochondrial dysfunction in the onset and progression of cancer, right? So now we discussed last time that the mitochondrial. So there is a called extracellular cellular matrix. So it is a multi-molecular determinate combination of matrix where cells attach and communicate, right? So this is really essential for the cell functioning when the cell is detached or there is a change in this matrix. So there's mitochondria expresses a lot of ROS reactive oxygen species, right? Which leads to, programmed cell death, which is called apoptosis, right? In normal cells, right? Uh, Although this produces one of these apoptosis NOKs, right? Which we discussed last time also, which is has an anti-metastasis potential, right? And but again, you have to understand that and that is the reason the cancer cells actually uh, focus on preventing the fuel which we are consuming to getting into mitochondria and probably fermenting into various other biosynthetic pathways which help in cells growth and cell proliferation. We discussed this, and probably that could lead to even uh, expressing a lot of high antioxidants to prevent ROS, because ROS would mean so again, from a mitochondrial perspective, whenever they produce energy, right, via TCA cycle or oxidative phosphorylation, probably uh, they also produce ROS, which is a normal process. They're doing something, there's a stress and they are producing ROS, but the cell also have capability to express a lot of enzymes which produces antioxidants on its own, which neutralize the ROS effect, right? So it is about the redox homeostasis between the less ROS, which leads to cell growth and survival, and higher ROS, which would going to impact, damage your lipids, proteins, your nucleic acids, your DNA, RNA, right? So essentially, that is further going to cause mitochondrial dysfunction, right? So when you have a lot of inflammation, oxidative stress, right, eating seed oils, having a lot of sugar. Again, sugar is sticky. Sugar sticks to your protein. It makes your cell dysfunctional. You have mitochondrial dysfunction, right? And again, you have this lot of disease related to mitochondrial dysfunction, right? So again, that's why we mentioned that nitric oxide is really important, because nitric oxide or increase the expression of PGC1 alpha, which leads to mitochondrial biogenesis, right? So essentially, coming back to so cancer cells would focus on preventing the RS and so that the fuels is being used. So when there is a lot of these oxidations because of wrong dietary choices, or probably a lot of inflammation caused by gut microbiome, oral microbiome, or low level of nitric oxide production, which is causing oxidative, which is causing mitochondrial dysfunction. So it leads to mitochondria starts producing a lot of ROS in excess, right? And there's no antioxidant because again it is dysfunctional. It is mitochondrial dysfunction is there. So these damage your lipids and proteins and nucleic acid, right? And then there's certain mutation of certain genes. So it is not that you're born with mutation. It is because of the methylation of certain genes or acetylation of certain genes, right, which could promote the cancerous situations, right? So people, you see doctors who talk about, or oncologists or even hospitals talking about, mutation of P53 genes or overexpression of HIF1 gene, which is actually causing cancer. It is not causing cancer. It is the mitochondrial dysfunction, which is, or the inflammation, which is causing mitochondrial dysfunction, which is causing, uh, you know, acylation or methylation of these genes, which is making you develop cancer, right? So essentially, what happens is when there's so again the cell survival, right? So essentially, mitochondria, as I shared in the beginning, that mitochondria is a regulating mechanism which controls the cell growth, cell death, and cellular metabolism, right? Energy metabolism. So because of this mitochondrial dysfunction, there is no mitochondria now. There is a you know huge uncontrolled growth of the cells, right? And again, the normal cells become cancerous, so they start growing, right? And what they do is so till now, if you have any questions, let me know.
I think it's actually you're making it very easy to understand because we've discussed these things in the nitric oxide video, even in the previous video where you mentioned these things. So I think you should continue this.
Yeah, yeah. So when there's an uncontrolled growth, right? What happens is that these uh, there's a lot of activation of fermentation pathways, right? So essentially, the fermentation fuels what we refer is glucose, right? Sugar, eating a lot of uh, processed foods, sugary foods, right, which are converted into glucose, or which spikes your sugar level. It's glucose is a food for these cancer cells, right? So once there is a mitochondrial dysfunction, there is oxidative, there is damage of lipids and proteins of nucleic acid, RNA, DNA, right? So there's uncontrolled growth, and then whatever you're eating, right, food you're eating is actually glucose, is actually, further fueling the fermentation pathway, what we call is lactate fermentation. We discussed about in case of oral cancer, we discussed about LDS, lactose dehydrogenase, which actually is the fermentation pathway, which further fuels the production of NADH, NAD, which is again pro-cancer in case of cancer, right? So it is further fuels glycolysis. Glycolysis again is produces glycolytic pathways, which further leads to shunts in your biosynthetic pathway, which leads to cell growth, right? So again, it leads to survival of these cancer cells, and that's a basic nature of any organism, right? To survive, right? As a human being, so they would do anything to survive, for its survival mechanism, right? So essentially, not only glucose but also glutamine. Again, glutamine is something which is found inside the body, and these cancer cells are avid uh, glutamine consumers, right? So you would
So
have
glutamine is also sold in form of supplements, if I'm not wrong. There are
supplements. It are there. It's found in milk, cheese, spinach, a lot of foods also, right?
yeah,
Right.
glutamine. I've seen glutamine supplements being sold in the market, and I mean
A lot of bodybuilders
imagine
use. A lot of bodybuilders use it, and the
one
thing
could
is,
imagine it is going to cause these problems. So
so the problem is that you don't have any information, because these all symptoms are cancer is symptomatic in early stage. So you may be developing cancer, but you do not know. So you're consuming glucose, or you're consuming a lot of glutamine, because you think it is good for your bodybuilding, or probably, glutamine is required for various cellular processes inside the body, right? But when cancer cells grow, it starts feeding on the glutamine. So there's a depletion of glutamine for the host for performing various activities, and then you have a lot of side effects, right? So probably that's a different discussion. We'll cover that, the glutamine in the protein fermentation part also, right? When we'll discuss about it. But these are the fuels for cancer cells when there's uncontrolled cell growth, when there's a mitochondrial dysfunction, when there's ROS production, right? So there is a lot of these fermentation pathway which feeds on glucose and glutamine, right? And 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 so thing is, what prevents the mitochondrial dysfunction in the first place is obviously, your gut microbiome metabolites, the anti-inflammatory activities, short chain fatty acids, bitrate, which uh, increase the expression of PGC1 alpha, which leads to mitochondrial biogenesis, right? So that's why we're told we eat a lot of fiber, right? Or maybe we consume fatty acids. That's why I mentioned about the saturated fat and the monounsaturated fat, because these are the fatty acids. Avocado, right? Coconut oil, right? Coconut, right? So these are sources of fats, right? Uh,
Saturated fats also is
Saturated
there.
fats and monounsaturated fats. So
And
so
I think ghee and butter are also there.
yeah, yeah, ghee, butter, right? Probably,
White
uh,
butter, which
yeah,
is
yeah, white butter, right? And then these all are, so it doesn't mean you have to consume too much, right? But
mhm.
there has to be a moderation. Again, your biology determines how much of each you should take from different foods, what kind of fats you need, right? So essentially, glucose is something, again, that's why type 2 diabetes is linked with the oral cancer as well, right? So we look at all these things through our detox mechanism, right? So we look at whether there's a proper capacity of your body to produce antioxidants, right? Or your cells are expressing enough antioxidants, normal cells, right? To neutralize ROS, right? So essentially, uh, and then so again, when you are changing your nutrition choices, you are, and not it's not only after cancer. So you have to consider this, that you know your nutrition choices are very unique for your biology, right? So you can't go for what someone is telling you to eat a lot of protein or a lot of fat or a lot of fiber or whatever it is, right? So essentially a lot of foods, right? So essentially, again, fructose, fruit juices and all those things which elevates your uric acid. Again, uric acid is one of the factor which suppresses nitric oxide. Nitric oxide suppression means mitochondrial dysfunction again. Linked. So again, these all are connected, right? But so you have to create metabolic stress for your cancer cells, right? So by not feeding them on the foods which they can ferment and grow, right? And probably feeding with the other cells, so that it is keeping these cancer cells starved, so it causes metabolic stress and they die, right? So that is one of the factors when for people when they have developed cancer and they are going for chemotherapies, and again, chemotherapies are suppressing tumors, right? You don't understand why it is, and again, it doesn't help, right? And there are a lot of side effects of chemotherapy. People come to or they die not because of cancer, but because side effects of these chemotherapies. So again, you can use nutrition to create metabolic stress, right? You don't need to get in too much of chemotherapy right here. And again, so again, this thing I'm remembering because we were discussing this yesterday also, that the vitamin nutrition deficiencies also happen because your food is not being metabolized by your mitochondria, because there is a mitochondrial dysfunction, there is ROS, so the food is being used, fermented by the cancer cells to for their growth, and then you will have nutrition deficiencies also, like vitamin D, vitamin E, a lot of these things, right? So, so the thing is that here the focus mitochondrial dysfunction again is linked to your inflammation, is linked to low nitric oxide production, is linked to consumption of these seed oils. Again, I'm repeating again, it remains in your cells in your body for 60 days, 2 years, right? So 2 years you'll having ongoing inflammation because of just one diet of yours, of food having seed oils, or these packaged foods, or these you know so-called healthy snacks, right, being sold, or protein bars or whatever it is being sold, right? So essentially, again, so we discovered this last week, that blueberries and cranberries. We just took that package one; it was full of sugar, right? Unlike
The dried ones. They were
yeah,
not
dried one.
fresh.
So if you're taking dried blueberries and cranberries, also check the sugar level, because this sugar again, high sugar sticks to your protein. It makes your cell dysfunction. It leads to mitochondrial dysfunction. Again, it is linked to disease, including cancer, right? So again, that is why these things should not be consumed, right? Probably make something at home, right? Hey, if you're really craving, what we do, probably we can share. Probably we make this millets pudding, right? Which is again in India, it's millets kheer, and we put a bit of milk and again millets and some sort of jaggery, right? You don't put sugar. That's not too much. There's a bit of jaggery what we put in. So there are multiple options you can make at home which can feed your microbiome well, where you could eat a lot of dietary fiber, you can eat a lot of inulin, you can eat a lot of food which are high in antioxidants, right? You don't need to. So if you have cancer, you're progressing towards one. Probably that is something which no one is decoding right now. And that's why we are coming with this. Probably we could identify the molecular determinants that precedes lesion and tumor development. So, you would not have tumor, you would say, oh, I do not have cancer, but probably, you are moving towards one because these molecular dependencies are not decoded by any of the companies right now, right? So essentially, if you have these, probably, stop consuming a lot of these. In fact, anyways, these seed oils and uh, these packaged foods should never be consumed, right? If you want to eat healthy, why don't you eat fruits and vegetables?
So
Why do you need to
that's true. Even if you don't end up with a cancer, you might end up with an autoimmune or chronic health condition.
autoimmune
Because
type 2 diabetes?
yeah, because see, we have seen a lot of people with diabetes who have been eating packaged snacks
Mm,
for past many years, 50 years, and
mm,
then there are children also who are so
mm.
much vulnerable to these things, and lot of everywhere in the supermarket you go, the first shelf you will see is a huge shelf of snacks and biscuits and cookies and whatnot. So I think that is something which is
Plus another thing, Sakshi, here, the food you're eating out in the restaurant, right? Again, first thing is there's a lot of toxicity. There's a lot of these hydrogenated oils, whatnot, sugary stuff, salt, sodium, and what
MSG.
chemicals,
They add these things.
chemicals. This is going to impact your cells. This toxicity is going to cause mitochondrial dysfunction. Again, so understand that, the mitochondrial dysfunction again is caused by multiple factors, oral microbial dysbiosis, gut microbial dysbiosis, low nitric oxide production, toxicity, pollutants, right? So again, if you're so this is something not avoidable for everyone, right? Because the places you're living, places in Delhi, such as Delhi and Mumbai, right, where or even Bangalore, there's a lot of traffic, a lot of pollution, pollutants, right? So there's no trees, no nature, right? Uh, you are not going to nature, so all these things are impacting your health, right? You don't understand because in so everyone cannot move to a place, which is much more close to nature like we have done, but thing is obviously the things which are in your control, right? So do not consume outside food even for once. You can make these things at home. Do not take the you know, eat a lot of polyunsaturated fats. Do not have snacks which are high in sugar. These are the first basic things. The seed oils, the inflammatory oils, right? The have a lot of good fats, right? Have a lot of ghee and butter, at least coconut oil, avocado oil. Avocado oil doesn't have avocado, right? So olive oil, right? So olive oil, canola is a complete no, so again, olive oil, what we're talking about, extra light olive oil, not the extra virgin. Extra virgin is used for salads. It should not be overheated, right? So essentially, these are few things you should consider, from a dietary perspective, right? Understand the mechanics,
And I think
and
sesame oil is all pretty much have has a
cold
very
press. So prefer
cold
cold press
press.
oil, right? Which is
Groundnut
not.
and sesame oil, mustard oil, because these are natively found in India.
See,
These two.
these oils which are being sold is already overheated in the process, right? When they are being made in the processing stage, and again you are bringing home, you're again heating it because you're using for cooking, right? Again, it's highly inflammatory. It is highly going to cause oxidative stress. It is going to, oxidize your metals and your proteins and going to cause mitochondrial dysfunction, right? So, so these are few things which we should understand, and probably If you and we would recommend specifically, once we are coming up with our product next month, probably you should sign up and you should understand your molecular physiology around it, right? Whether you're moving towards a cancer or not, we are going to detect it, the pre-lesion, pre-cancer, the pre-tumor development uh, signatures for cancer, right? Which you would never no one can decode it right now, right? So do not wait for the things for PET scan, biopsy, and then go for chemotherapy. It's really, and then because of these wrong choices, the 13% of the Indian population is high risk of cancer. The number of people developing cancer is growing, specifically for people who are 50 years of age. They should, or probably people who consume tobacco or alcohol, right?
Smoking,
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 right?
vaping,
Tobacco,
and
yeah, tobacco products, right? Uh, you know, eating seed oils, consuming seed oils, a lot of sugar, right? Have oral dysbiosis, have gum disease, have periodontal disease, have type 2 diabetes, have obesity, have risk of cardiovascular disease. So, these all are connected, right? So these all are early indications for your chance of developing colon oral cancer, right? And again, we again another thing which we have missed is oral microbial dysbiosis, again, which is something we decode, right? HPV infection. So those are the multiple things which comes into picture, right? When it comes to, so you just by screening over oral cavity is not going to help. Screening oral cavity may tell you have a likely gum disease, but it's not necessarily. The second thing, important thing is, do not have toothpaste which are high in fluoride. It is going to disrupt your nitric oxide production. It is going to cause mitochondrial dysfunction, right? There are chances. It's not necessary, but there are chances because nitric oxide is a key role in mitochondrial biogenesis, right? So, so having a lot of toothpaste which is high in fluoride or these artificial sweeteners are complete ban, right? And do not buy those. 99% of the supermarkets are full of these toothpaste, right? So you don't need fluoride in your toothpaste. So these are the basic things to be understood when it comes to identifying the how your mitochondrial health is going on. Right?
that's correct. That's totally obvious. And we have been time again telling everyone about the toothpaste, about the seed oils. I think we've done two videos of that. So, Sushant, thank you for very enlightening discussion, and you have covered some very important points that everyone should consider in their lifestyle and nutrition choices. So, thank you. And I think for all our listeners, we will be back with another topic with the ongoing cancer series. Please subscribe to our channel, and you can also find our podcast on Spotify, Amazon Music, and Apple Podcasts. Thank you.
Thank you.